Hi, my beautiful Virgo family, and welcome to our June 2021 reading. Conversation, chat, all of that. Okay, this June is so much about coming home to ourselves, feeling at home in ourselves, feeling at home in our thoughts, feeling like we can trust our soul song and hearing our soul song, practicing how to get closer to that soul song. And the themes that are coming up, there's all this energy going on through Gemini. We have a solar eclipse in Gemini on the 10th. We have Venus or Mercury retrograde in Gemini. We obviously have the sun moving through Gemini and the North Node moving through Gemini. We have all this energy in Gemini, and this is going to really reflect for Virgo. What are you doing in the world? And the classic question that came up, and I think it's one that's worth asking actually regularly in our lives, is, if it wasn't about money and survival, what would you be doing? What would the day look like? What projects would you want to be doing? What odd volunteer things or art projects or conversations would you be doing? It's such a fun one to ask, I think, because the goal isn't here to overhaul our lives immediately and be done. It's to have fun thinking about if we take the pressure off of earning our worth in this world and being responsible and wearing every hat and pushing through just because we have to. If we take all of that off the table, what is there? What is in our hearts? Because we hear our true soul song when we don't have all those other pressures on us. And unfortunately, in most of the world, those pressures are there, right? So we tend to hear those pressures very loudly. And like I said, I think that that's such a fun mental exercise to do all the time, regularly, because even if we're doing something we love and we're really good at it and we're doing well and things are good, there may be parts of it that you feel pressure to keep doing because you've had success with it, because people know you for doing this thing, because you know yourself for doing this thing, and you feel like if you change it, if you ask questions, it's scary. So that's going to be a huge theme during this Gemini season for you. And then, of course, as we move into Cancer season, this is also going to be about how you connect to your community, to your friendships, to the world around you, and finding and just really noticing, what do you want that to look like? So there's a lot of these kind of big picture questions coming up for Virgos when it comes to, who you are in the world. And I think that's really interesting because I often, asking the question of who we are to, what's our status in society and who are we to our community, we start asking those questions from the outside in, it gets very muddled. So this way, there's so much retrograde energy happening, including in your opposing sign. Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces are going to be going retrograde this month as well. It's all about asking those questions from the inside out, right? And flipping it's on its head. So these areas of life and these energies, these houses that I'm talking about, are so often about how we connect to the external world, but we can only do that by connecting into ourselves, right? So it's a bit of a mind loop going on there. Also, what's really interesting this month, Mars and Venus are both going to make their way into Leo, your neighboring sign, into the 12th house, the spiritual, the hidden. Venus and Mars, the cosmic lovers moving into your 12th house. This is like creative energy from the hidden, from the unseen, from not the obvious places that we are running around on the surface looking. So you may be finding too this month, things are coming up and through you. Ideas, urges, concepts, conversations that feel really good, that are a part of your soul song, that you're surprised, whoa, this is coming out of me. Wow. Now, with the caveat that in order to hear those things, you'll have to be listening, taking the time to, a card fell. Four of Swords, listening, yes. Resting, hearing ourselves. It's funny too, because when I'm talking about resting, I think often people think I am telling everybody all the time to like go lay in bed for like 20 hours a day, which every once in a while that sounds really nice actually. But no, I think for me, rest is gonna look different for everyone. It's not always about literally laying down, closing your eyes. It can be that. It can be meditation. It can be a slow walk. It can be, sitting in a hot sauna. I don't know. But rest also means being at rest, not striving all the time, not pushing all the time. Rest means being in more of a natural state where you can hear yourself. So Four of Swords, right out of the gate, we're getting some of that internal listening. Also, Four of Swords really represents a time of integration. Four in tarot is a culminating number, so it rounds a process out. It rounds a learning process out. Two of Cups, I like that a lot. Deep connection. Makes a lot of sense to me. There's a lot of energy moving through 7th house and 11th house, these communing, connecting houses. Death. Ooh. Wow. Virgo, you guys are getting the powerful cards here. Very powerful cards. And 9 of Swords. Would it be a Virgo reading without some worry and some overthinking? I love you guys. I have a Virgo moon, so I'm here with you. So let's just talk through this, because once again, June for everyone is a time of integration, incorporation, shift, and renewal. And that's going to look different for everyone. Some people, they're going to be noticing those big shifts in life. Some people, it's going to be more subtle things. In your case, what I'm seeing here is this is so interesting. Things are going well. Something's going well. Something's coming into your field of vision, or is starting to happen, and it scares you. Scares you. It's like, what if I'm not allowed to do this? What if it all blows up in my face? What if this person, they seem great now, what if they leave? What if my heart gets broken? What if I try and do this creative thing that I can feel pouring out of me and it kicks me in the ass? And that makes a lot of sense. It's funny when the most exciting, beautiful things come into our lives, even when they are things that are truly in alignment with us. And I do want to make before we talk about the cards specifically in the process here, I do want to make a distinction. It does require courage to follow your true path. It does require a level of vulnerability and courage and problem solving that it puts you on this whole other level. But it should not feel icky, or like a stone is in your stomach, or like your throat's locked up. Like, those are indicators that there's something, to look at. But for things that are really powerfully meant for us, it's still vulnerable. It's still going to feel like you are, you're not wearing costumes. You're not wearing who you're supposed to be to other people. So there's a nakedness to it. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Okay. So we start with Four of Swords. Like I said, this is a time to check in, listen in, hear your soul song. I like to incorporate Four of Swords work in micro practices, which just means throughout the day, whenever you're feeling frazzled, whenever you're feeling fried, whenever you're feeling like, I don't know what to do next, or wanting to get into control mode, take a breath. Stop trying to control it or answer it or be in charge of it or be on top of it. Just say, I surrender, and see what comes up. Great practice to do. So Four of Swords is going to be a gateway through which you get really great information. Now, this Two of Cups, one of the best cards. I mean, come on, nobody can argue with this gorgeousness. Like, this is about reciprocal connection. This is about really connecting with another soul. It doesn't always have to be love. It can be love. It can absolutely be love. It can be deep friendship. It can be deep collaboration. It can be deep partnership. It can feel like that kind of connection where it feels good to be human. Like, it all makes sense to be human when you connect with people who really feel good to have in your life. And I'm seeing that. And it's really interesting because this kind of connection, this kind of calibrator is causing transformation in you. Relationships are one of the fastest ways, right? When we see ourselves in a friend that we love dearly, when we see ourselves in a lover, when we see ourselves in a project or community or whatever, like, that's when we can see everything and things connect. And this is a transformational connection, right? Death, for me, it is a skin shedding card, right? It's the great mystery. And death is about getting familiar with a new world. I always find that this card, a big part of it is that it's taking place with the rising sun. And it's stepping into the unknown. Vulnerable. That is very vulnerable, to step into the unknown. It's stepping into a landscape you haven't familiarized yourself with. To me, death reminds me of kind of like, it's the scare. You're going into the night. You feel ready for the journey. You feel ready to explore what's next. You know that when the sun comes up in the morning, you're going to be walking a new path. You're going to be walking in a new landscape with new colors, with new textures, with new questions, with new everything. And you're going to have to figure out who you are in that. You're going to have to be a beginner again. And that's where the vulnerability comes in. And I think that's where our deep fear of it comes in as well, because there's this vulnerability is really defined by our lack of ability to control all the outcomes and all the different things, right? And so often when something that is really meant for us, when something beautiful that's really meant for us comes into our lives, we encounter that feeling of, I'm waking up in a landscape I'm not familiar with. And I don't know what that's going to look like. And I've experienced this many times with very valuable, beautiful things in my life that are still in my life today. Let's talk about this Nine of Swords as well, because it's the voice of worry. And oh goodness, this voice. It cannot be your leader. This voice is allowed to be witnessed. It's a great voice to write down on a piece of paper. That's really my best advice. The Nine of Swords is the circular little loop, anxious thoughts. The thoughts that just repeat and repeat and repeat, and they are just so circular. They just go around and around and around and around, and they just get us so stressed out. And they are not good. This is not good information. In fact, you know what? I'm going to pull another card for you all. This is not the leader. I think it's very natural for Nine of Swords to come up when we are going through a big change, when we are being vulnerable, when we are opening a new door. Nine of Swords is going to come up and be like, hey, you think you're allowed to do that? Like, vulnerability hangovers are such a real thing. 10 of Wands. Okay. That's so interesting. Like, I think it's really interesting when we grow and we change and we open a door, how we are asked. It's almost like, it's almost fun to think of there being like a doorway that we're going through, and there's a guard that's going to ask us questions. And the guard says, are you willing to release some circular thoughts, some circular beliefs about yourself? Are you willing to put down the burden of who you've been before? Are you willing to lay these at the door before you enter here? And we have to witness that and decide, if we want to put those worries, those fears, those past thoughts, those past identities at the door. And we get to choose. We do get to choose. And that's exactly what's happening here. We are starting to get into transformational energy for you all. Like I said, Mars and Venus are moving into Leo. There is a definite emphasis on transformation and on leaving behind the familiar in order to go on a journey. And that can be quite literal. It can also be about your creative journey. It can also be about your love journey. I'm excited for this. I do think, like I said, June is a time for deep self-honesty and wholeness in self. That's going to be the journey. That's going to be the way through which we move forward in our lives. And I'm just thinking, because the note that had come to me for you all was about feeling whole in yourself, because that's what Virgo energy represents, is a wholeness. And a wholeness doesn't mean you have to be everything to everybody, right? That's a fractured life. A wholeness means that you get to put down all those fractured pieces. You get to shed those fractured pieces. You get to come into greater wholeness and union. I think so often we think a full life is one filled with hats and shoes that we put on and costumes we put on. We're running around. That is a fractured life. So are we going to be brave enough to hear our soul song, to listen into ourselves, and live a whole life? I don't know. Each of us is going to have our own journey with that, I think. I'm going to be offering a lot of extra support on Patreon. I would love to see you there. Such an amazing, sweet, wonderful community. I offer weekly chats, worksheets, reviews. We have a great comments section. It's a great way to connect with me and work with me. You can also find me on Instagram and my website, so I'll leave all those links below. You can also find PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry on our Etsy shop. I love you guys. I love my Virgo family, and I will see you in July for more of this process as we move more and more into 12th house mystery for the Virgo family. I love you all, and talk to you soon.